Risk taker, businessman, sports and entertainment promoter, and passionate about making Florida the best place to live, shop, work, and play. It's time for the Joe Mullins Radio Show.
Hello, Florida. This is Joe Mullins of the Live, Work, Shop, Play Show. We've got a very special show this week. We are going to be talking about the Florida midterms and some of the most important races that we have. And we've got a very good friend of mine. We've got John Maples, state councilman of Lake Clark Shores, beautiful area down by Palm Beach. John, welcome to the show today.
Joe, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me again, and excited to get the chance to spend some time talking about midterms with you.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy races. But before we talk about the races and some of the important ones for the state of Florida, let's talk about the current climate in the country and what you see is going right and what you see is going wrong. Tell me your feedback since the presidential election and since Trump has taken office. Tell me some of the things that you see that have really gone well and are excited to see, and then some of the things that you're seeing that we're needing to get on top of immediately.
Yeah, no, great question. You know, things that are going well, which might be a surprise to many people, is that, things in the minority community, I'm African American, and many things in the minority community, jobs, employment, opportunities have increased, which, no one really talks about that, but it's fact, and that's what's happening. And I think at a more broader scope of what the president is doing from a business standpoint, it actually looks like the guy knows what he was doing. Many folks didn't think the tariffs was a good idea, didn't think that he had a strategy and a plan. As it turns out, he did, and he brought a lot of people to the table, and our country has benefited from it. And then I'm a finance guy by trade for the past 17 years. So when we get a tax bill that nails down everything that's going to be as far as tax code, so as we're doing planning for our clients, we know exactly what's going to happen so we can properly plan for our clients and make sure their legacy and future, or their families and their kids, or blue collar painter or electrician that's trying to build a company, they're able to do that, and they know exactly what their exposure will be from a tax perspective and a retirement perspective. So it's really huge, a lot of the things that the president has done and implemented in a short period of time that he's been in office.
John, you bring up a good point. A lot of people's conception with politicians, and certainly you and I both have been in politics for quite some time now, their perception is that all we do is politics and all we do is make policy. We don't have, it's almost like they don't believe we have families out there. They don't believe we have careers and jobs. And a lot of these positions, it's true, a lot of people take these positions that are retired and it's all they do. But then there's younger guys like you and I that go out and we fight. We want to take these positions to help our community. We don't do it for the money because we certainly make more money in our private sector. And, we want to get out there and fight. Let's talk a little bit about John Maples, the non-politician, and let people hear that, hey, this guy has a stake in the country, a stake in everything, not just making decisions, but also it impacts your business and impacts your career, impacts your family.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Joe. Yeah, I mean, grew up not a lot of wealth, not a lot of resource, and stereotypical deal, I guess you could say. I used athletics to go to college. I got my degree in computer science. My dad, when I was leaving the house, said, son, there's only two things you're going to want to do when you're there. You want to be the most conditioned athlete on the floor. So I was an All-American basketball player, and you want to learn computers because I believe that's the way of the future. Now, my dad never graduated from high school, so this was a profound foretelling for him, to me, of wisdom, and that's what I did. And, and then I decided to get into finance because I love the market, the green and the red, and understanding how money really worked, and been doing that for 17 years. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Christy, and I've got a 14-year-old daughter who thinks she knows more than we do, and she's going to be off to college pretty soon, but man, we love her, and we're super excited for her, and get the opportunity now to serve this country as an elected official and serve my community. And so, living some of the best days of my life, I believe that, and I want to make sure that other people feel the same way.
So, John, the things that are happening in the country now, the immigration, the financial stuff, the tariffs, all that impacts you personally. It's impacted communities. What are some of the things you've done as a leader to help embrace some of these things? It's almost, we share with people, guys, there's going to be some pain to straighten out some of the stuff that the past administration did. It's going to hurt us all. We're going to go through some pain, but there is some clear daylight and great stuff coming to the end. And one of the biggest things I think we'll both agree is the world's going to respect America a lot more by the time Trump's done. They take us serious with it, that's for sure. But these tariffs and things, they're taking us. But how have you, as a businessman and as an elected official, braced to help minimize the impact of this stuff?
Yeah. The only analogy really that comes to mind that I think about, it's like when you run a business, and I do, and most of my clients, they have their own companies and businesses. You've got that staff person that, may have been okay. And you're like, well, I can't let them go, but eventually they quit. And so now you're like, oh God, what am I going to do? My business is going to go downhill. And then you hire someone new and your business takes off and they're the best thing since like sliced bread and they're the greatest. And you're like, wow, how did I ever get by without this person? But there was that pain of trying to get to that person that you had to endure and go through to understand how good that person really is, the new person that you brought in. So, with any business, there's going to be some bumps in the road and you have to weather them and understand with a long-term perspective and believe that better things are on the horizon. And that's the approach that I take to my business. That's the approach that I communicate and share with my clients and my friends and my family as we move forward in this country.
Now, how are you guys as a community and you as an elected official embracing and dealing with that throughout your community?
Yeah, so when you have local town politics, sometimes you have to remind people that, the trash being picked up, the roads being paved, or, the grass being cut, or this and that. Like some of the more basic things are not as, we're not trying to solve tariffs here. We're trying to make sure that the roads are paved and just making sure that people are not taking local politics and making it federal politics, if that makes sense. Because really the reality of it is, we're impacting their daily life with the decisions we're making in local politics at a much greater impact, immediate impact than, say, the president and the tariffs and what's happening at the federal level. So we just try to educate, remind our residents that, hey, look, we're going to stay focused on doing this job and doing it well and helping you with your day-to-day deal. And if you want to have an open dialogue about some of the things you're encountering and experience at the federal level, we're happy to do that. But our focus is making sure your day-to-day life is well. So, just trying to stay focused on the main thing, I think, is what we've been practicing here as of late.
And John, we've got some very important elections coming up. We've got the midterm coming up. For Florida, it's a governor race. It's a senator race. It's a lot of House seats. It's a lot of state rep seats. It's also a lot of some Senate seats as well. A lot of local elections. But on the state level, let's talk about it a little bit. Right now, DeSantis is going around. He's fighting. He's trying to do some things. He was a very popular governor when he first started. Lost a little attraction when he started running against Trump, and they kind of had their outs and stuff went haywire. And now that's settled down, and we're back to business and trying to get things done. But he's had a tremendous amount of trouble with the House this year. Had a tremendous amount of trouble with getting things done and everybody being on the same page. What's your take on the importance of uniting this, this midterm, uniting this state again and getting the right leaders that are going to be able to pull that together and do that?
No, I think that's so critical. What we saw back as, residents and as folks who are Floridians is that when there's division, it's hard to get anything done. And it takes a lot more time to get anything done. And so I know as an athlete, you got to be a team player. I was an All-American captain of a basketball team and graduated from college, and that was the role I played. But when I started, I was a freshman, and I played my role well. It was water and towels. It was, all the things that need to be done in that job to help our team win and excel. And I embraced that. And so I think what we got to get back to is being a team, the teamwork, team approach to get things done. I think about our military men and women, they're a team, even if it's a small SEAL team or whatever. It's just a small team, a unit that's operating on the same sheet of music. They're rolling in the same direction, whatever analogy you want to use. But we got to get back to that team focus, and having the right leaders in place is going to be critical as we move forward through these midterms.
Now, John, also you have decided you don't only want to serve on the local level, but you've decided to go out there and throw your name in the hat. Let's talk a little bit about that and what made you decide to do that.
Yeah. So I've got some very, 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 very incredible people that are mentoring me. One of them being Mary Lynn Magar. And she sat me down. I kind of shared with her my vision and fathers and about human trafficking and just really some of the things that I'm passionate about. And she was like, well, what's next? And so she directed me to talk to a few stakeholders in our community. Went to Tallahassee, spoke with leadership, and had a great conversation. And it came down to, hey, John, we want you to run for State House District C 87. We want a team player. We want you in that seat. We want you to put your name in the hat. We imagine if you put your boat down in the water, let your sail down, we'd imagine there'd be a gust of wind to help you get to where you're going. So we want you to get involved. And so that's what we've done. And we've been running in this race for the last 3 months, and we've got broad support. And it's just been incredible, the outpouring of support from the community, from stakeholders, from leaders, really from all around the country. So it's been incredible.
Now, John, those races are so important for all of Florida, and that's what people don't understand or may not comprehend. Well, why does a state house race matter to me up in North Florida or Central Florida? But things, as we've seen throughout the country, are done through majority of votes. They've done through majority of support. Also, some of the issues are brought up not by certain areas, but by state reps all over the state that impact different areas of the state. Certainly coastal ones in some areas benefit the coastal areas north and south of them. People are bringing inland stuff, bringing farming, that benefits the whole state. So you see these bills sponsored by people from all over the state. Explain to our listeners why the state house races are crucial for everyone in the state of Florida and not just the area that they represent.
Yeah, and it goes back to a team. These folks go there, they advocate, they lobby one another, their colleagues to get support for different bills that represent maybe their area, or they partner with areas that have a similar issue. And the reality of it is laws that are passed affect all of state of Florida. Maybe you don't have a heavy condo community, and maybe it's all rural, but there's other folks in the legislature that has influence and that could help you pass a law to help the farming community or address some of the issues we're dealing with property taxes and insurance in the condo community and in the housing community. So the reality of it is the people that you send there, it's very important that they, number one, can work with their colleagues who serve in the legislature. That's going to be critical because without relationships, you'll never get anything done because you're only one vote of many. So it's critical that you have the support and the teamwork mindset of the community to work together to get things done for all of the state of Florida, not just your area.
You know, John, you bring up a good point. When you had the condo association stuff down in Miami and they started bringing the legislation and pushing it down in that area, it impacted North Florida. It impacted Jacksonville. It impacted Flagler. It impacted Orlando. It's impacted Tampa, Sarasota, all the cities that we base the show out of. It's impacted them very strongly. Daytona and all these association fees, these things going crazy. Then the governor trying to turn around and say, "Hey, we're gonna reduce or eliminate the property tax." and what kind of impact that would have. So you're right. There's so many things that impact all of us that we got to make sure are strong voices and strong support. One thing I think I've seen a lot of government stuff lately. They make change, and this is where they lack the business support. This is where they lack the business quality like you come into the door with. And I've seen it federally, state, and local. They make such aggressive changes, not transitions, that they shock the community, they shock the economy, they shock everything. And I think that's the example, the condo thing, making such aggressive rules against the condo markets and the condo associations has shocked it. And it's now affected a lot of homeowners that can't afford to live there anymore. Whereas as a businessman, how would have you done that differently and made it to where it was more transitional and maybe even offered some support from other means to draw that money instead of going directly to the residents of these condos? Because this caused devastation in some areas. How would you have dealt with that?
Yeah. And hindsight is 2020, right? When you can see how the impact has really been not as great and needs to be kind of refined and retooled a bit. And that's the beauty of this process, is that the legislators don't always get it right. But they do have the opportunity to come back now, tighten the screws down, change a few things, tweak a few things to make it better for our community now that they've kind of seen the impact. Unfortunately, sometimes you have that fallout where you wish you would have done things a little bit different. But the reality of it is we did have an issue that needed to be addressed. The way it was addressed, kind of with the hammer, maybe surgery could have gone a little bit better. But the reality of it is, this is not this is something that they can go back and update and tweak and retool to make that legislation better. It's easy to judge our current legislators when you're at hindsight 2020. It's tougher when you're in the hot seat and people just lost their lives, and people want answers, and they want to then make sure that more people don't die in a similar fashion that is in the 21st century really should never happen with the technology we have. So I get it. And I also understand that, when we make those large, big changes, as it really affects the community. And so it's a balance to find a broad stroke, how to do it effectively, efficiently, where you're getting the change and results you're looking for without a substantial impact to where you got to go back to the drawing board and say, hey, well, we might have the pendulum swung just a bit too far. We need to try to get it back in the middle.
Yeah, and I agree. And being a business owner, you tend to make those decisions more cautiously because you don't want to impact your income. You don't want to impact your business. You don't want to hurt the financial stability of your business, which you have a very strong background in, where a lot of these legislators are legal people. They've worked for government, and in their minds, they're just going to go to the government or the people and draw the money to make the thing work. And that's what I think the people are speaking up, saying they're tired of. We're tired of being the ones that pay for your rash decisions. We're tired of being the ones that pay for the aggressive stuff that you're doing. Yes, there needs to be change, but certainly having a businessman like you and people that have that business training and that business weathering come in, and they can go, you know what, we're going to make this change, but we're going to have to gradually do it, or we're going to disrupt the economy to a certain point that it's going to be hard to come back from, or we don't want to have those kind of effects. So that's what I love about someone like you being in those seats versus another lawmaker, another attorney, another I love our military. Don't get me wrong. I love them. But they also have the support of the government. And a lot of those guys get into these positions locally, and they don't think about, hey, the government is your people. Be easy on them. They need tax breaks, not tax increases. What are some of the things you'd like to address and deal with when you get into office?
Well, being a local elected official, I get it that there's some day-to-day things like we got to deal with this property taxes. We got to deal with insurance. There's some things that going to need to be dealt with immediately. And I understand that that's part of the process. But things that I'm passionate about is family, and specifically with making sure that our kids have great fathers who have the tools they need to be great fathers. And also, making sure that not that the kids need both parents is what I'm trying to get to live a life that's, and some kids don't have that opportunity, but we're trying to create an environment, a culture where that's the case. Now, that lends to my second piece of this deal, where human trafficking is where a lot of these kids end up, who don't have a dad who's empowering them, a father who's standing in the gap for them, a father who's warding off predators from these children who are human trafficked and are sold many, many times. It's a $1 trillion industry. Now, the biggest perpetrator of human trafficking is are men. So if we had more fathers who were men who were empowering, protecting, encouraging, uplifting, then we have more men standing with us, less standing with them, and we can really make a huge difference in both of those pieces. Now, Joe, I believe that the impact is going to be incredible. It's going to change the world, but ultimately, I probably won't be alive to see the final result or to see the fruit of that. It'll be long after I'm gone before that real impact actually takes and really grows. But my job is to plant the seed so that the tree and water it so it grows. Best time to plant a tree, Joe, is right now. So that's what we're working to do to make that impact.
4 minutes.
John, how can the listeners support, because like I said, it's so crucial for all the state that we get more businessmen in like you, people who've weathered, people who've had to fight hard for their money, who have protected their family and come out and left a great position. This is what I tell people. You don't want a guy that needs this position. You want a guy that wants this position. Needing it for income and needing it for a status or whatever they go in for is not a good situation, because then they tend to be manipulated out of fear of not being elected again. You come in, you work hard. You're not worried about the next election. You're worried about the moment and making sure what you do and say carries through. Well, how are some ways people can support you and get involved in your campaign?
Yeah, Joe, thank you for that. Really simple. It's votemaples.com, VOTEMAPLES.com, votemaples.com. Maples like the syrup, but with an S. Get on there, grab some information, connect with us, contribute. As you know, Joe, running these campaigns, it takes resources. And so at the end of the day, those resources help us to get out, get stuff in the mail, get signs out, get doors knocked on, get a team really together on the ground to make sure we're reaching the voters and telling our story and make sure they understand who they're sending to Tallahassee and what I represent. And so votemaples.com is the best way to get some information to help us move forward.
John, I want to thank you for joining us, and thank you for coming in and sharing so much about yourself, and also thank your family for sharing you with the community, with the state, with the country to fight this fight that we're in right now, and knowing that you have so many other things that you could be doing and spending time on and working on business-wise and personal. The fact that you have this passion is very exciting and motivational and should be supported by many. So I want to thank you for joining me today, and have a great, good luck on the campaign, and we'd love to have you come back on more.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe, and you're welcome, and thank you for having me. I love this show and appreciate all the work that you do. Thank you.
And listeners, it's so important that we pay attention to these state races. These races are some of the most crucial ones for our country. Our state, it's been doing great, but it's not there yet. We have a lot more ground to cover, a lot more area to focus on. We've got to start focusing on the economy. We've got to start focusing on where Florida is going to go from here. We won't always have the president in the White House where we're getting a lot more benefit and a lot more attention. It will change. And is this state prepared for that? Is this state prepared to stay number one in the country to live, work, shop, and play in? This weekend, I want you to go out and thank all of your elected officials that you see, all your public service representatives, all your public safety officers, police officers, firemen, all of them. Thank them for the job they do, because we have kept our state number one in safety and number one in economy. And we need to continue doing that by electing people like John Maples into state offices to fight for us. Have a great weekend.